Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So today our team will be presenting about mental health among young adults. This slide has been created by the three of us, which is Muhammad Iskandar Fitri, Muhammad Fazlul Wafi, and Muhammad Azim. Okay, so we can proceed to the next slide. Firstly, I will be talking first about the introduction of the writing paragraph that we have selected from Fazlul Wafi. Okay, first of all, we are going to talk about mental health. Okay, what is mental health actually is? So, mental health is actually a person's overall emotional, psychological, and social well-being. It doesn't always mean that mental health is something bad. Just that there is another term which is mental illness. That is bad for everyone. Mental illness is actually something that affects our emotions and our well-being towards being more dangerous or giving harm to ourselves and to our other people. Okay, firstly, we have the introduction paragraph. First, I will be talking about the key points that is explained in the introduction. Firstly, as we can see here, mental health is important to overall well-being, as stated at the first sentence of the paragraph. Okay. Secondly, mental health issues are rising among young adults range from 18 to 25. As we can see here, young adults aged 18 to 25 years had highest prevalence of any mental illness compared to young adults aged from 26 to 49 years old. And lastly, several factors contribute to poor mental health in young adults, such as the negative effects of social media, the lasting impact of adverse childhood experiences, academic pressure, and a lack of mental health awareness. And so, it will be covered more in this slide later on. So, we'll proceed to the next slide. Okay, here I have a statistic that shows that past year prevalence of any mental illness among US adults from 2022. It's from data courtesy of SAMHSA. So we are going to focus on the age part here, which is the only key bars over here, not the overall data, just only the age data. So as we can see here, the statistic shows that from the age of 18 to 25, it shows that the highest ever compared to both 29 to 26 to 49 years old and 50 plus. Okay. And firstly, we are going to the main points in the paragraph, which is social media. As we know, everyone, including teenagers, use social media as a platform to express themselves and to show other things. But sometimes there are downsides of social media that we doesn't know. Okay, so here we have the paragraph itself. I'm not going to talk much about it because it is very long. I have highlighted some of the main points here, such as social media is one of the causes that contribute to worsening mental health. Yes, I agree with that statement. It is one of the biggest, actually, the biggest causes of mental illness among young adults. So, social media creates unrealistic standards. Users tend to compare themselves with others. So, I will be explaining more towards that on another slide. Okay, I will go to another slide now. Alright, so the expanded explanation of that paragraph is here. So the expanded explanation of the social media section. Alright, so the main idea here is social media contributes significantly to poor mental health among young adults by promoting unrealistic lifestyles and causing unhealthy comparisons. So like, as we know, as we can see on the TikTok, Facebook, WhatsApp, we can see all those working models and everyone who show off the best part of themselves. Yeah. Okay, so what is the problem actually? Firstly, it has unrealistic standards. Social media platforms, okay, like I said earlier, Instagram, TikTok, and Snapchat are filled with carefully edited, filtered, and polished posts. People usually only share the best part of their lives, vacation, achievement, expensive purchases, but not their everyday struggles. This is to, it actually has, I will give an example. There are one people that I met on TikTok, which is Ashton Hall, who showed his lifestyle is very perfect. He woke up early in the morning and he lived his life to the fullest. But actually, that is a polished post to show the only perfect part of his life, but it doesn't show the efforts that he did to go into what he has achieved. Okay, so secondly, comparison and jealousy. When young adults scroll through posts from influencers or friends, they may begin to compare their own lives to what they see online. Okay, everyone does compare themselves to others, but that is one of the main things that bring yourself down. So this can lead to jealousy, low self-esteem, and lastly, feelings of failure or worthlessness. So as we can see from here already, it does bring something that is bad for ourselves to compare ourselves with others who are more successful. It's just not that, what can we say, fair. It's not fair because our different people has different starting points. So it's just not fair for us to compare ourselves with others. So we must pity ourselves first. Okay? And okay, here are some of the solutions that I can show you. Firstly, we have digital detox. Firstly, we can take breaks from social media to help young adults reset and reduce anxiety or depression caused by constant comparison. Encouraging phone-free times, especially before bed, can also improve mental health and sleep. Secondly, workshops and educations. School and workplaces can offer workshops that teach critical thinking about what's seen online, help users understand that social media is often edited or fake. And thirdly, encourage healthy usage habits and time management. Okay, so the third point is promoting authenticity. Campaigns or challenges that encourage real, unfiltered posts can help normalize imperfection and reduce pressure to appear perfect online. Okay, so what does it matter actually? Because young adults are actually very highly active on social media, and their brains are still developing in terms of emotional regulation and self-image. Without education and limits, social media can cause serious harm to mental health, even if it starts out as entertainment or connection. Okay, that is all from me. I will show it. I will give it to my friends.
Alright, first of all, thanks to Iskandar for the earlier presentation about introduction and deeper explanation about how social media affect mental health among young adults. And now I will continue this presentation by focusing on another two aspects, which is adverse childhood experience and academic pressure. Next. Alright, this is the essay that talk about adverse childhood experience. I'm not going to talk much about it. And next. Alright, first let's start with the definition. What is adverse childhood experience, or we call it ACEs? Adverse childhood experience refer to negative events that occur before the age of 18 According to CDC 2024, this negative event include action like abuse, neglect, or even violence. Because as a child, we need an attention or care. We need that as a child. But why we are focusing on ACEs in this presentation? Because ACEs is one of the major factors that affecting mental health in young adults, because it is associated with an increased risk of anxiety and depression, according to Sabella et al. 2024. Alright, now let's start with the key fact and the statistic. But actually, how bad is ACEs among young adults? Right, let's start with the first data, which is nearly 2 out of 3 adults report at least one ACEs in their life, throughout their life, which means after they are born until they reach 80s. Alright, let's give an example. We have 3 people here, and maybe like I and Iskandar have experienced ACEs before age of 18, and this is really bad actually. And to make it even worse, let's look at another data, which is 1 in 6 adults have experienced 4 or more ACEs in their life. But why I say it even worse? Alright, now let's look at another table. Okay, people with 4 or more adversarial experience of ACEs are significantly more likely to face mental health challenges. Alright, this is the table. As you can see, this table compares how people with 1 ACEs, 2 ACEs, 3 ACEs, and 4 ACEs compared to people who doesn't ever experience any ACEs in their life. Alright, according to the table, people with 4 or more adversarial experience of ACEs are over 10 times more likely to have depression, which is at 10.27%, and more than 5 times more likely to experience anxiety, which is at 5.37%, and more than 7 times more likely to have behavioral or conduct problem, which is at 7.44%. And it doesn't end there. People with 4 or more ACEs also more likely to be diagnosed with ADHD, which is at 4.14%, and the worst one, which is substance use disorder, which is nearly 16 times more likely at 15.71%. Right. But what does this number show actually? This number shows a strong link between how adversarial experience affects serious mental health challenge later in life for people who have experienced it. Next. Alright, but what does the impact and the solution that are needed to addressing ACEs? First of all, let's talk about the impacts. Trauma affects brain development, making stress management and healthy relationship harder for people who have experienced ACEs. Increased risk of anxiety, depression, PTSD, low self-esteem, and also trust issues. For example, a young adult with childhood abuse may struggle to accept themselves at work or school. This is because when they have experienced ACEs in their life, they tend to build a wall whenever they talk with people, because they need to be careful. They don't want to experience that again. But what is the solutions? The solution is the first one and the most important one, which is early intervention. We as the future teachers and school, we have to find and support children who are at risk in school and communities as early as possible, because ACEs happens between the range of when you are at school, when you are kids, until you are at the end of the school, which is at 18. And the second one, the solution is by provide counseling and therapy at school, because it is more accessible for them to get the need that they have. And the third one is community education. Community program can teach parents about creating stable and enriching homes, which can help prevent ACEs in the first place. And the last one, government action. Policies are needed to protect children and support families who are going through I'm so sorry. Let me start again. And the last part is government action. Policies are needed to protect children and support families who are going through difficult times in their childhood. Alright. that's all about the adversarial experience. Now let's go to another part, which is academic pressure. Alright. So, this is what they say. Alright, let's start with the definition. What is academic pressure? Academic pressure refers to the high expectation based on students by parents, teachers, and even themselves. On one hand, yes, goal setting and healthy competition can motivate growth, but on the other hand, when stakes or expectation become too high, performance anxiety can spiral into some chronic stress. And based on the graph, this is some of the causes that lead to academic pressure, but I just want to focus on one thing, which is unrealistic expectation from others. How does it lead to mental pressures? How does it lead to academic pressures? Next. Okay. Prevalence of student stress according to KIF 2025. Okay. Because of the expectation from parents, school, and even teachers, some of 91% of students experience stress in their daily life, and which is the highest one. And the second highest one, which is students say stress affect rates, which is at 75%. And the third one, at high school students with chronic stress. This is all happened because of the high expectation from the parents and even school. And next. And the third graph, which shows how the academic shows up in daily students' life. And these are some of the causes. And the highest one is students who procrastinate due to stress at 64%. And the second highest one is students who look for quiz daily at 45%. College students with some management issues at 40%. Students affected by test anxiety at 31%. And the least one, which is students spending 10 plus hours per week on homework because of the high expectation. And next. And what does the impact and the solution? Right, first of all, the impact. Fear of failure, perfectionism, and burnout. Students might become very afraid of not doing well because they feel that they need to be perfect all the time, and eventually they will feel completely exhausted and even burn out. Pressure to meet expectation can cause anxiety, sleep problems, and loss of motivation. The constant pressure to do well can make students feel very worried, have trouble sleeping, and lose their desire to studies. For example, we as an Asian students, we are born with a stigma that to be considered as succeed, we have to score in exam like get straight A's and secure a good job to be considered as successful. And below of that, perfectionism is considered as failure. And what is the solution? First solution is by promoting balanced approach. As a future teachers, we have to teach stress management and to be resilient in school. And the other solution is by providing workshop. We have to teach students about time management, relaxation techniques, and effective study habits for them to help encounter the stress. And the last one, which is support system. Like I said earlier, school is accessible for students to seek for help. So we have to provide counseling service and give support school for them to get the need, to seek the help that they needed. And I think that's all for me, and I will pass this to Hansi.
Thank you very much. But next is lot of mental health awareness. Now I'm going to talk about lack of mental health awareness and why it's a problem to us. Why it becomes reasons to why it becomes effects to young adults mental illness. First of all, begin with many young adults today do not seek help from others. They somehow really discount what's about it. So that becomes a problem. And let's talk about the question. You can see why lack of mental awareness affects adults' mental health. First of all, it's because of delayed recognition and intervention. See, without awareness, young adults and all the other around often does not recognize and fail to see early sign of mental health struggles. Because why? They don't talk about it. This leads to delayed intervention, allowing problems to escalate before help is sought. which means things get worse and worsen outcomes and make recovery even more difficult for them. Next is barrier to accessing care. See, when mental health is not openly discussed or prioritized by everyone around, young adults may not know where or how to access support services. Like, if I were to ask anybody among 100%, I can guarantee 50% more will not even know where or how to get help from. And even where resources exist, lack of awareness means that many never reach out for help, even at crucial times. Over 60% of young people with major depression does not receive any mental health treatment, even in areas with good access to care. And third, limited coping skills and resilience. Without education and open conversation to talk about mental health and mental illnesses, young adults may lack the coping skill needed to manage stress, anxiety, and other challenges that they face. As I said, most especially in crucial times. This can result in maladaptive behaviors and reduced ability to navigate life's choices and life difficulties. Moving on. Okay. This is a chart information about mental illness. It talks about how mental illnesses is more prevalent in young people and may persist throughout their lifetime. As you can see, 2008 total adult population 17.7%, and while adults ages 10 to 35 is 19.1%. However, 10 years later in 2018, total adult population 18.5 and 26.3% of them are adult ages ranges between 18 to 25. 75% of all mental illnesses develop by the age of 24, which is a growing time where young adults need to build their life, start working, and other more. As I said, why? Because they does not talk about it. They does not get their help and does not reach the services that they should get. Okay, next, moving on. Okay. How does it affect young adults? First of all, I'm going to talk about increased prevalence and severity of mental health issues. First of all, what does that mean? Okay, a study in India found that 14.2% of adolescents had poor mental health scores, with a higher prevalence among girls, indicating that mental health problems are common and rising among young people, but often go unrecognized due to lack of awareness. See, lack of awareness really get the main reason of why mental illness is more to young adults. It's unrecognized. And second of all, it's about stigma and its harmful effect. First of all, I'm going to talk about stigma. Stigma basically means stereotypes or what are the things of such a thing or problems. See, stigma arising from lack of awareness causes young adults to avoid seeking help. According to American Psychiatric Association, more than half of people with mental illness does not receive treatment, often due to fear of judgment, discrimination, or misunderstanding from society, family, fears, workmates, and even peers. Why? Because of stigma. It's a stereotype. It is not wrong for people to seek help, especially during crucial time, because mental illness is a serious issue. And next is about it affects young adults because of barriers to accessing care. Let me talk about it. Lack of awareness contributes to underutilization of mental health services. As I said, even though it exists and probably a lot more, people don't use it and does not seek it. For example, in the US, 60% of adults with mental illness did not receive any mental health services. In the previous year, And the average delay between symptom onset and intervention is 8 to 10 years. 8 to 10 years is way too long for you to actually reach help, reach quicker. And next is impact of digital and social media stress. Young adults face additional stresses like techno stress and social media overuse, as said by Iskandar earlier. Constant connectivity and pressure to stay online increase stress and anxiety. Yet, lack of mental health awareness among managers and workplace worsens these effects. Sharma, 2024. Moving on. Okay. Now we'll talk about solution to address lack of mental health awareness among adults. First of all, the first point, I said implement comprehensive mental health education. What I meant is to integrate mental health education into school and university curriculum. So it's not about just a publicity where you see on TV or somehow media social, but you learn it. People talk about it, and there is someone, a teacher, that actually teaches you the importance of it. It is to improve understanding, reduce stigma, stereotypes, and to promote early help seeking so that it does not get worse. Second, to implement comprehensive mental health education. It is to integrate mental health education into school and institutional. Next. Okay, it's to conclusion. I'm going to talk about the conclusion. Okay. First of all, ask ourselves, how often do we truly pause and think about our mental health or that of people around us? How often do you think about mental health?
What?
How often do we truly pause and think about our mental health or that of people around us? Well, you don't need to answer. It's okay. It's not a.
Okay.
I'm just asking. Well, you see, mental health illness or problems is actually a very serious problem. You see? So it is actually quite crucial for us, especially us as young adults, to think about it. Like, if you think about it, how many of our friends that are close, that seems fine with us, actually have mental health issues? If you have to think about it, some may seem fine, but are they truly is? Oh, okay. Brief revisit to social media. As I said earlier, by this, social media can be a main reason of why mental illness is among young adults. For example, the techno stress and jealousy and comparisons. Yeah, social media sets somehow a very unrealistic expectation and dreams for people. Like you may see others and jealous of why can they achieve it? But as it said, everyone has different starting point and different things to do. Next is adverse childhood experiences, ACEs. As mentioned by Fad earlier, it becomes a problem. Why? Because adverse childhood experience affects mental illness. As said by Fad earlier, people with ACEs tends to be more likely to have depression, anxieties, and other mental health problems. Next is academic pressure. Well, as you can see, some of us even experience it ourselves. The stress to need to get straight A's or to achieve great results. And next is lack of mental health awareness. So what can be done? Well, it's easy. Solution: we have academic support, for example, from our teachers ourselves or by our by our mentor or our seniors others, and our peers even also, because we understand each other more. Next is addressing trauma early to avoid to increase early recognition and to avoid it early on. And next is normalizing mental health conversation. So there's no stigma, no stereotypes. It's normal to seek help because of mental illness. Mental illness, and lastly, digital influence. Though some can be unrealistic and make you jealous, we can use that media, that platform, to actually help others to be more prone to seeking help and other things like addressing trauma early to avoid mental health illness, especially among young adults. And next is yes, mental health is not an isolated issue. It is a multifaceted challenge. What is mental? Well, to avoid independent performance, say earlier, interpersonal dysfunction, so that you can grow better and does not have mental health issues like depression, anxiety, or social anxiety, to substance abuse, self-harm, and even suicide. Because of mental illness, a lot of people have committed suicide. And a small reflection, mental health is not merely a personal struggle, but a shared societal concern. Assessed by WHO, World Health Organization, there is no health without mental health. Okay, so we move on to questions. Do you have any questions?
Okay, I got a question for Iskandar. So the question is, why mental health issue raising in young adult?
As I said earlier, okay, look at this, think of it like this. Everyone does use social media, right? So ask yourself, have you ever seen something that makes you jealous on social media?
Yes, I have.
Alright, so how do you feel actually?
I feel challenged by them.
Alright, so some of other people would take that more seriously. And it makes some person feel even more depressed, and it deteriorates their mental health. And that is just one of the causes of the mental health deteriorates is about social media. It causes jealousy, comparisons, and so much more if you think about it. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone?
Okay, so I got another question for Fad. The question is, why is early intervention important when addressing adverse childhood experience?
Why early intervention is needed when addressing ECEs? I would say it is really essential because it helps prevent bigger problems in the future or in the afterlife. Because if children receive support early, they can heal faster and develop healthy ways to deal with their feelings. And if they don't seek any help without help, this experience can affect their education, friendship, relationship, and even their health as an adults. And early intervention also gives children a better chance to grow up confident, strong, and happy. It is much easier for them to guide and support a child than to fix serious problems later in life. And that's it for me.
Okay, thank you for the insight. And for the last question, I would like to ask Azim. So, do you think mental illness is a serious issue, especially among teachers?
Yes, very much. Because you, as teachers, you are trying to teach kids, your students. How do you teach your students well if you yourself is experiencing mental health illness? How do you teach them better and happily with a good quality if you yourself experiencing a mental health issue? So mental health illness. So it's a serious problem, and additionally, as teachers need to seek help and find a solution to it so that they can teach students better. That's
Okay, thank you for the insight. I understand it now.
I think that is all from us. Thank you.
Thank you.